The betrayal didn't come from across the border. It came from across the table. President Ibrahim Traoré believed he had secured a strong future for Burkina Faso, but within the palace, one of his closest allies was undermining him. Confidential. Military information was being leaked. Foreign operatives were closing in. The plan: eliminate him before the elections. This is the untold account of a hidden conflict, a trap woven in silence, a nation stalked from the shadows, and a leader who turned treachery into strategy. Welcome to the world of deep research. Welcome to the large family of wisdom in narrations. The night was quiet in Ouaga. Too quiet. President Ibrahim Traoré stood by the palace window. The city slept, but something felt wrong, a tension in the air, like a storm preparing to strike. For weeks, things had been unraveling in unusual ways. Military actions were being compromised. Secret meetings were no longer secure. Enemies appeared where they shouldn't, moving with unsettling accuracy as if guided by an insider. This wasn't coincidence. It was betrayal. Ibrahim sensed it, deep in the space once filled with trust. Someone in his inner circle had turned against him. Burkina Faso had started to reclaim its independence. Ibrahim had made powerful enemies by doing what the people longed for, expelling foreign troops, reclaiming the nation's gold, and restoring land, voice, and dignity to its citizens. But the old powers weren't letting go quietly. They had always controlled things from behind the scenes. Now that their strings had been cut, they were quietly trying to reattach new ones, through shadows, espionage, and diplomatic smiles hiding deeper motives. Then everything changed in a single night. A young officer, Captain Naba Zongo, sent an urgent message to the palace. He'd been monitoring radio channels in the north, a routine assignment, when he intercepted a suspicious transmission. It was disguised as a farming report, seemingly harmless. But it wasn't about agriculture. It contained war data, coordinates, names, top-level intelligence, details that only the president's most trusted team should have had access to. That night, the palace went into total lockdown. Ibrahim called a confidential meeting at midnight. No phones, no guests, only those few he completely trusted. The room was tense, every breath measured. "Zongo," he said softly, "put the documents on the table." Everyone leaned in. Silence fell. The name on the leaked intelligence: Colonel Watara, an old friend, a man who once took a bullet for Ibrahim, who sat beside him in briefings, who shared laughter with him at family celebrations, trusted with everything, including the nation's deepest secrets. The air grew heavier. It was Zongo, one of Ibrahim's most faithful officers, who finally spoke. He's been passing information for months. Ibrahim didn't react outwardly. Inside, it felt like something had been torn from him, but his face stayed composed. "No one acts," he said. "No arrests." Confusion swept the room. "We wait. We watch," he said, inhaling slowly. "If there's a snake in the house, we don't kill it just yet." Yet, he made sure to look every man in the eye first. We followed the trail to its source. The days that followed felt like walking through flames. Ibrahim carried on with his responsibilities as if nothing had shifted. He delivered speeches, greeted people, smiled for the cameras, but inside, he was studying everything, every gesture, every hesitation, every glance from Colonel Watara. And Watara smiled too, like a man with no burden, too composed, too spotless. Behind the scenes, the real battle had started. Captain Zongo and a specially chosen team monitored Colonel Watara's every action. They tapped his calls, tailed his car, noted every meeting, every handshake. Then the breakthrough came. Watara left the palace just past midnight. No guards, no chauffeur, Just a black car slipping into the night. Same path every time. Same destination. A quiet house near the French embassy. It looked abandoned, but Ibrahim knew the signs of a safe house. They installed a hidden camera across the street, and then, one cold night, truth. The footage showed Watara entering the house. Inside, 2 foreign men in suits, 1 American, 1 European. They handed him a black suitcase. In return, he gave them a folder. Inside, the president's private travel schedule for the coming month. It was the confirmation Ibrahim had been waiting for. He watched the footage in silence, jaw tight, fists curled. The man who once stood beside him in war was now betraying him. But Ibrahim didn't explode. He acted wisely. He picked up the phone and called Zongo. It's time. The next morning, the following morning, Colonel Watara was summoned to a meeting on the top floor of the defense headquarters. As usual, he entered with his usual calm demeanor, confident, composed, and wearing a familiar smile. But this time, the atmosphere was different. There were no friendly welcomes, no handshakes, only 10 soldiers, fully armed. At the center stood President Ibrahim Traoré, motionless and resolute. Colonel Watara hesitated. The smile that had come so naturally now slipped away. "You were like a brother to me," Ibrahim said. His voice didn't rise, it rumbled with authority. Watara said nothing. He tried to speak, but no sound came. His lips moved faintly, searching for words that wouldn't come. Ibrahim stepped closer. "You sold out this nation," he said, "all for empty promises. Do you really believe they'll stand by you now?" Still, there was no response. Captain Zongo opened a black suitcase on the table. Inside, bundles of cash, tracking equipment, and a USB drive carrying undeniable evidence of betrayal. "You're not going to prison," Ibrahim said, his voice cold and firm. "You're going to talk." Silence filled the room. The storm wasn't outside, it was unfolding right here, within the palace walls. Now, Colonel Watara sat alone in a plain concrete cell deep underground. No windows, no clock, no sleep, just stillness. He no longer resembled the man he once was. The sharp uniform was gone. The spark in his eyes had vanished. What remained was a man haunted, chased by his own conscience. Behind a one-way mirror, President Ibrahim Traoré stood silently watching. His face showed nothing, but beneath the surface his heart ached. This man, now labeled a traitor, had once been like family. They had shared meals, stood shoulder to shoulder in battle, and confided in each other about their deepest fears and hopes. And now, they stood on opposite sides. Captain Zongo stepped into the room and placed the USB drive on the table between them. "We opened it," he said. "Every file, every name, every secret, you gave it all away." Watara stared at the floor in silence. "You don't have to say anything," Zongo added, "but once they find out you've been caught, they'll abandon you. You mean nothing to them now. They don't care." His voice softened. "We're your only way out." Time dragged on. Hours passed. The silence grew heavier, as if the walls were closing in. At last, Watara spoke. His voice was unsteady. "They reached out a year ago," he began. "Americans, Europeans. At first, it was all praise. Then came the money. Then the promises. A house in Paris, a job with the UN, power." He paused. "After Ibrahim fell, they wanted Burkina Faso back. Its gold, its land, its spirit. And I believed them. I thought they would protect me." His voice fell to a whisper. "But now, I see. They were only using me." Later, Ibrahim entered the room and sat across from the man who had once fought beside him. They didn't speak at first, then Ibrahim leaned in. "You didn't just betray me," he said, calm but resolute. "You betrayed our people, the mothers in the villages, the young soldiers on the front lines, the children whose futures you traded away for empty promises." Watara couldn't meet his gaze. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Ibrahim stood. "You'll face the consequences, but first you'll help us stop them." And so a new kind of war began. A war fought in silence, in shadows, with deception and patience. Using Watara's connections, Ibrahim's team began feeding false intelligence to the foreign agents. Every message became a trap, every lie a weapon, every silence a calculated move on the chessboard. Embassy personnel began disappearing. One agent was quietly deported, another was exposed in the media, a third simply vanished. Burkina Faso was no longer the prey, it had become the hunter. At the heart of this covert struggle stood Ibrahim Traoré, composed, fearless, and resolute. He was no longer just defending land. He was safeguarding truth. He was standing for the people. The lion had awakened, and it was watching. A new war in silence. Everything burned. Every second felt like walking through flames. President Ibrahim Traoré understood there was no time for rest. The enemy was strong, rich, and silent. But now they were also unaware. With Colonel Watara's discreet support, a new battle began. This time, lies were the weapons of choice. They created fake files, invented strategies, even forged military paths. And the foreign intelligence agents. They believed every piece of it. They still thought Watara was on their side. They assumed they were in control. But the entire setup was a trap. Captain Zongo coordinated the mission from deep inside the Ministry of Defense. Walls were covered with maps, radios buzzed non-stop, and blinking lights flickered like the heartbeat of a nation at war. Every night, Ibrahim arrived quietly, alert and cautious, overseeing every step. Then, the moment arrived. A foreign operative using the alias Reed reached out to Watara. He claimed to be an agricultural consultant, but his real message was clear. They were ready to move to the next phase. The meeting was scheduled for midnight at a safe house just outside the capital. The urgency said it all. Something major was coming, something dangerous. Ibrahim's eyes burned with determination. "It ends tonight," he said. He commanded a silent mission. No uniforms, no sirens, only shadows. At midnight, Watara entered the safe house. A microphone was hidden beneath his collar, a tiny tracker sewn into his belt. His hands trembled. He knew failure would mean disaster, but he had a duty to fulfill. Inside, Reed and another European operative were waiting. "You've been quiet," Reed said, his tone cold. "Is the president?" Growing suspicious, Watara remained expressionless. "He trusts me," he lied. "I've brought the next phase documents." He passed them a fabricated folder. Reed leaned in, voice low. "Be prepared. It's time to finish this. The president must be taken down before the finale outside the safe house. As the elections unfolded, Ibrahim listened intently through his headset, his jaw tight. This was the final confirmation. He gave the order. Like shadows slipping through the dark, the team moved in. Doors flew open. Weapons were drawn. Reed and his associate froze. It was all over within moments. "You're under arrest," said Captain. Zongo. Cheers broke out. Applause and whistles echoed in homes, marketplaces, and even remote villages where lights flickered but pride remained strong. "I will never trade this country," Ibrahim said. "Not for wealth, not for deals, not for power. Burkina Faso belongs to its people, and I vow to protect it with my life." He lifted his right hand. "This is my pledge," he said. "I will never bow to foreign rulers. Never again." His words carried beyond borders. Conclusion: across Africa. And beyond, like rolling thunder, young leaders listened, activists cheered, and even the old skeptics who once doubted him nodded quietly with pride. That night, Ibrahim Traoré became more than just a leader. He became a symbol, a protector, a lion. Later, when the streets of Ouagadougou fell silent, Ibrahim sat beneath the stars beside Captain Zongo. "You did well," Ibrahim said. Zongo smiled. Humble. "Sir, I just followed your lead." Ibrahim gazed at the sky, silent for a long moment. "They will try again," he said softly. "Maybe with new faces, new plans." "Then we stop them again," Zongo replied without hesitation. Ibrahim nodded. "Yes, as long as we stand together, they will never take this land." And with that, the lion rested, but only briefly, because men like Ibrahim Traoré don't rest for ease. Long. They rise with the people, fight quietly, and protect the future with fire in their hearts. Thanks for watching. I wish you a better life, good food, and prosperity. Stay strong, Big Wins family. Reed snapped back. "You can't do this. We're diplomats." "Not tonight," Zongo replied firmly. "Tonight, you're caught." As the agents were taken away, Ibrahim entered the room. No guards, no arms, just him. Reed glared at him. "You think you've won." Ibrahim's voice was steady, composed. "I didn't win. Burkina Faso did." The world woke to headlines that echoed across continents. Foreign agents exposed in Burkina Faso espionage case. Traoré reveals covert operation to undermine the government. Embassies went quiet. Leaders rushed to bury the truth, but it was already out. The man behind the operation wasn't just a president. He was a soldier, a patriot, a lion who refused to bow. That morning, as the sun rose over Ouagadougou, it felt warmer, brighter, like the land itself was at peace. Crowds gathered near government offices. Radios crackled in the markets. People whispered in back alleys and shouted in public squares. He caught them. He stopped them. He protected us. Ibrahim Traoré had achieved what many thought impossible. He didn't just uncover spies. He defended the heart of a nation. Burkina Faso, free, alert, and unafraid. Ibrahim Traoré. Inside the Koshiam Palace, President Ibrahim Traoré stood alone on the rooftop. Below him, the city of Ouagadougou remained awake and watchful. He didn't smile. His expression stayed composed, yet inside him burned a quiet fire, not of revenge nor of rage, but of responsibility. He had moved through darkness, uncovered betrayal, and faced powerful opponents, never firing a single public shot. But he knew the battle wasn't over. The fight for the soul of Burkina Faso was still to come. That evening he called for a national address. No professional writers, no grand stage, just him. He stepped forward in his military uniform, not dressed as a ruler, but as a servant. It was neat, unembellished, and worn with honor. His speech, the nation listened, through screens, radios, and hushed voices near flickering lamps. He began slowly. "I speak to you tonight," he said, "not as your president, but as your brother, your son, your soldier." His voice was steady, his gaze unwavering. "Foreign powers have tried to weaken our country from within," he continued. "They used one of our own to steal our ideas, our goals, our future." He paused. The silence grew heavy. They wanted confusion. They wanted fear. Then, staring straight into the lens, he declared, "But they did not succeed."